Hi folks, welcome back to Arpita's Art Journey, where I share my latest artwork and short films with you for self-discovery and inspiration. So this week, I am sharing the process of creating this brightly colored portrait of a woman that I recently made. Before we get started, please consider liking and subscribing so I can bring you more such videos in the future. I began by painting a 12 by 12 inch square canvas with Liquitex Basic Acrylics Cadmium Orange Hue for the underpainting. You can use any sort of orange you would like. This is the one that I had available. I used to start painting on blank white canvases, but I learned this technique from several other artists, and I find it helps me to be able to take on more complicated projects because it feels easier for my brain to begin something that's already been painted. Now, I've been learning how to paint using different techniques lately by checking out books from various artists. I found one called Painting Portraits and Acrylics by Hashim Akib that looked like a great one to start from, so I gave this a shot. It's linked in the description below in case you want to check it out. Now, when the whole canvas was painted orange, I used a very light pink paint to create the basic face outline. You can use any color you want for this. I started with drawing a rectangle that covered most of the canvas, leaving enough room to add the ears and hair later. Then I drew a vertical and horizontal line going through the center of the rectangle. I then drew two rectangles on either side of the vertical line. And a triangle on the vertical line. I also drew a horizontal line at the bottom third of the rectangle, and that's what I used to create the lips. I then added the ears as curved lines going from the eyes down. Once I had these basic features created, I drew diagonal lines across the bottom and top of the face to create the jaw lines and the forehead. Here I added in two lines for the neck. So I used the two rectangles as reference for when I started drawing in the eyes, the eyebrows, and the face structure around the eyes. and I used the triangle as a reference for the nose. I then outlined the shape of the mouth. Here, I started drawing lines to help me identify the cheekbones. Okay, so once the basic outline was done, I started filling in the... I used Liquitex Basic Acrylics Turquoise Blue to add shadow to the left side of the face. And I used a flat brush to go in, following what I thought was the curvature of the face on an actual human. And so you see I started with the side of her forehead, and then I went into the crease next to her eyes, going down to her nose. And I added to the right side of the nose as well. I then went in and I went down the left side of her face, adding basic flat brush strokes, and really just trying to fill the painting in at this point. So here I started adding in Liquitex Basic Acrylics Fluorescent Pink to add shadow to the right side of her face. And for me, I wanted to have a multi-colored facial look for this, and so I decided to combine, I decided to use two different colors to create the shadows on the sides of her face. Here I went in underneath her lips and really around the bottom half of her face, and I used a flat brush to also add some shadow. And then I went along the side of her face as well and added the same kind of shadow that I had added on the left side. But I was using the reference image, so the shadow was a little bit lighter here in comparison. I also added it in different parts of the image as well, just so it wouldn't look simply as if I was doing one side one color and doing one side the other. So I wanted to throw splashes of color across the different parts of the painting as well. So here I combined my Liquitex Basic Acrylics Cadmium Yellow Deep hue and my Titanium White in order to get a very solid white layer onto the painting. And this was really to show the areas that were going to be highlighted on the face. And I was really aiming to just fill in at this point, so I wasn't so focused on getting the exact right color, but I wanted to have the basic face outlined. So here I was really going in, looking at my reference image, and then I would add in areas that had a lot of light shining on them. And so you can see I did portions of the nose, there were certain sections of the side of her face, her forehead, her cheekbones, and certain portions of the bottom of underneath her lips on her chin. I did this until all of the colors were filled in for her face. So you'll notice that I am following the direction of the lines that you would see on a face, or kind of the way that a face actually feels when I am laying out the colors. So as I'm doing the white patches, I'm really thinking about, okay, wow, the skin on the chin is going to be a little bit flat from the front and going horizontally, or the skin from the cheek down is going to move in a downward diagonal direction. So I'm thinking about these things in the back of my head as I'm thinking about the shape or the direction of the brush strokes that I am making on this painting. So at this point, I realized that I had only painted one side of the neck and not the left side. And so I went back in and I filled that. And then I also went in and painted the ears. And I used my blue to do that. Now I started using my Mars Black to fill in the shape of the eyebrows on her face. And I was trying to kind of replicate the shape of the hairs or the feel of the hairs when I was doing this. So it often the little tiny hairs are not just like lying flat on her eyebrows, right? They're following a certain direction, and that's what I tried to replicate. Here I started using Liquitex Basic Acrylics Mars Black to fill in the hair around her face. And so I was doing this in layers and following the natural flow of her hair as I saw it represented in the painting, in the picture. So as you can see here, I was mainly focused at this point in outlining around the shape of her face rather than trying to fill in black everywhere. Once I had kind of the basic hair outlined along her face, I went into the eyes and started filling them in with titanium white. And also outlining them with black. So you can see here I'm using a very fine brush in order to outline the shape of her eyes at this point. I'm just going very slowly. I also then fill in the pupil of her eye with black. And then I continue to do the same thing on the other side of her face. So to make the eyes a little bit more realistic, what I do is I just add small lines on the top of the outline so that I can replicate kind of the feel of eyelashes on the face. And then I do the same thing underneath the eye outline that I've drawn. And that's a lot easier to do with this kind of fine brush than the flat brush that I was using earlier. Okay, now I come in with my Liquitex Acrylic Basics red color and I start filling in the lips. I had already gone in and outlined a black flat horizontal line to mark the middle of the lips, and now I'm going back in and I am filling in the rest of the shape of the mouth. Now I'm using my white to go in and fill in the inside of the eyes. And I'm using my fine brush to do this as well. Okay, so at this point I start using a 1.5 inch brush to fill in the hair on the outside of the face. So I'm going outward on the right hand side and I'm following kind of the direction that I see in the reference image. And I am doing short brush strokes, kind of just trying to create a layered look as I'm doing this. Once I had filled in the colors, I continued refining the face and hair until it felt complete for me. Okay, so you'll see now that I start going in with my basic acrylics cadmium yellow deep hue, and I start filling in areas where I think it's just too white at this point. And I'm going in kind of sporadically and trying to use my fine brush to really outline the areas where I think that it will look best. And I'm just experimenting at this point because I already have all of the colors filled in. Okay, so at this point, you'll notice that I have a lot more of the yellows and the reds filled in, and the face has just a lot more color and vibrancy to it. So I am sorry, I didn't realize that my camera turned off while I was painting kind of the colors in, but you can see kind of how it's changed a lot from the initial color fill that I had. I ended up replacing a lot of the areas that I'd originally painted white with yellows, and I just think that it adds a lot more kind of my own style and what I think is beautiful to the painting. So at this point, I'm still going in, and I have combined a bit of my white and yellow to add a few extra highlights to the face. And I'm really just going in and continuing to refine until I think that, or I feel inside that it looks like it's how I want it to be. And I'm making these touches mostly to the under eyes and to the forehead at this point. I also make some slight highlights on the chin. Now I go back into the eyes and I use my fine brush again to kind of define the eyes more. I'm actually using a flat brush here, and I'm kind of going along the direction of the eye outline that I created earlier, and I'm just darkening it out so that it's thicker. And it just makes the whole face look a lot more bold when I do this. Now, I go ahead and I use my black to also kind of go along the lips and give them a bigger outline. And then I go in and I make the lips a little bit darker and also a little bit more vibrant. Okay, so here I start zooming out a bit and thinking about now how I want to deal with the hair. So I have some medium magenta from before left over, And so I start to fill in and add highlights to the hair using the medium magenta. And I'm just kind of going down and making hairlines, like basically following kind of the flow that I had created before. And I'm doing it on both sides. And I'm using my flat brush to do this. Now I go in with my turquoise blue and I'm doing the same thing. And I'm going in between the areas that have the magenta on them. I'm not trying to mix any colors here. Now I start doing the same thing with my cadmium yellow deep hue and going in. And I really wanted to use the same colors that were in the face and the hair as well, so that I could have some continuity throughout the painting. And now it felt like the colors were too bright right next to the face, and I wanted to have some kind of separation. And so I came in with my Mars Black and I started outlining the face again using my Mars Black. And I also kind of just darkened around the outline of the face here, going in long strokes. And I wanted to be able to create some sort of depth by doing this. So I was really just experimenting a lot here, trying to get to the kind of layers I wanted to be able to show in the painting, but also still showing the vibrancy of the colors. Now, even as I was filling in, I was making sure that I was still following the same lines I had created earlier. And then I realized that the eyebrows looked a little bit too light as I was doing this, and so I decided to fill them in since I was already using my Mars Black. And I came in with a flat brush to do this. I also decided to go in and just refine the pupil of the eye a little bit more. There were also parts of the nose and the eyes that I wanted to be able to add some layers to. And so I was just messing around and seeing at this point whether I should make this right side of the nose darker or whether I should keep it lighter. And the same with the eyes. I wanted to add a little bit more depth around the eyes, and so I was going in with a mix of my magenta and black to kind of create that. But for the nose, I realized that I didn't really like the black all that much, so I went through and I decided that I would lighten it a little bit. And here you can see I was just going in on the cheek. And adding more yellow. And I added a little bit of yellow underneath the eyes and on the eyelids, just to give a little bit more of my own flavor. And here you can see I'm finally highlighting the nose again. And I'm going into some areas that were darker on the nose as well and filling those in. And going in on the inside of underneath the eyebrow and filling it in there, as well as some of the shadows on the side of the face. At this point, I'm just kind of feeling out the painting and how I want it to look. And I decide that I want to add in some yellow to the neck as well here for continuity and just to have some more highlights on the neck. So I went in there and I went in and I continued to kind of refine the nose a bit. Now at this point, I felt like this painting needed a little bit more white, so I went in with my titanium white and I wanted to add more highlights to the nose and to continue lightening the right side of the nose, which you'll see me doing here. And I'm doing this with my flat brush. Now, I decided that I also wanted to add some white highlights to the hair as well. And only on the outside, not necessarily anything on the inside. And so I did the same as before, where I followed the pattern that the hair was flowing in, and I would just take my flat brush and follow that and add some white to the outside. And I did this on both sides. More so on the right side just because there was a lot more hair there, but I added some to the left as well. And here it's just continuing to refine. adding some highlights along the chin and on the forehead. On the side of the face. Now I was feeling like the lips were a bit too dark here, so to lighten them, I went in with some white and I just put in a few blotches coming from the inside of the lips, and then I went in again and I filled them in with some of my red, and it created this really nice bright lip that you're gonna see in a second. And I just kept adding layers, and I also added some of that brightness to the top lips. And then just for color continuity and to add kind of my own artistic style, I went in and I added that same red throughout the painting where I thought it would look nice. So I did some sides of the face, and I filled in a little bit of the eye area, lower cheek on both sides, and the neck. And I did some parts of the head too. Went in through the hair. It's just so at this point I decided that the eyelashes on the eyes needed to be thicker and bigger and brighter, and so I started going in and just having a heyday with adding in eyelashes. So around this point is when I decided that this looked pretty complete and I was satisfied with it. So I just went in and removed any like excess color from the eyelashes that I wanted. And if you got this far, please make sure to like and subscribe for more painting tutorials, and I'll see you in the next one.